Welcome friends back to another r/am I the jerk video. Now I might be a jerk for asking, but could you hit the like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by Obvious Tone 5788. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that I don't want him walking my cousin down the aisle? I'm 16-year-old female. My cousin, 23-year-old female, is getting married in November. She's the only daughter of my dad's brother. For some context, we don't get along at all. She bullied me while growing up, and after my uncle passed away, she tried to steal my dad. He never allowed it and made time for both of us, but to this day, my cousin still says that I was a witch for not letting her have a paternal figure, which is not true. Neither my mom or dad allowed her to mistreat me and abuse me, but there's so much a parent can do. She used to do it while they weren't watching too, and I was too afraid to tell them because I could see how important it was for my dad to have a relationship with her, so I kept quiet. While the bullying decreased, it never went away. She still makes fun of me because I'm single, because I'm dumb, etc, etc. When she got engaged, she excluded me from the bridal party, and it wouldn't matter if it wasn't for the fact that she included the rest of the family, her mom's side and my brothers. My dad found this suspicious, and things got a lot worse with her funny comments. That I'll probably attend alone, that she didn't think the bridesmaid dress would be flattering to me because of my size, etc. She took my parents to dinner last week and asked my dad to walk her down the aisle, and I don't know what excuse he gave her, but after that, he came to my room and asked me if I would be okay with this. I was honest. I said no. I told him that she made most of my life heck, even before my uncle passed away, and since I was his only daughter, I thought it would be an experience between us. That I knew she would ask, and I only wanted to make my feelings clear. But that at the end of the day, the decision was his, and I'll accept whatever he decides because I know how important she is for him. He told me that he loved her as a daughter too, and that was it. Well, my dad told her no, and now my cousin's blaming me, telling everyone that I forced him, that I was a jealous little witch, and that if I don't fix it, then I wouldn't be welcome at her wedding. My mom and aunt sided with her that it was a low blow from my part, and most of her family saying that it wasn't fair. My mom called me yesterday and told me I should have lied because this was an important moment for her. My brothers told her that if she didn't stop the harassment, then they'll drop from the party too, and I can't help but think that I caused a big mess. I feel bad for OP because I think they're taking what the cousin's doing and kind of wrongly blaming themselves for it. In no way should OP feel bad for having admitted how they honestly felt. I think OP's not the jerk here. Would you say that considering the dad said they consider the cousin as a daughter to them, that what OP did here was out of line? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is by Mangoes and Pickles. Am I the jerk for throwing away my autistic roommate's food after he repeatedly asked me not to? I, 25-year-old female, live with my roommate Jeff, 25-year-old female, in a 2-bedroom apartment. We share a kitchen and living room. Jeff is autistic and has told me that he doesn't like his stuff touched or moved from its original spot, which is fine. I don't ever touch his stuff or move it anyways. The problem starts in the kitchen. I cook a lot and therefore use my share of the fridge space. Jeff, on the other hand, eats out more often, but still likes to keep his side of the fridge stocked, which wouldn't be a problem, except he buys easily perishable foods. Grapes, salad mix, eggs, etc. He'll leave his food in there until it's literally liquefied. The first time I found his food like that, I tossed it immediately, after which he freaked out and reminded me again to never touch his stuff. Since then, I've had to practically beg him to throw out his food. Whenever I text him about his moldy food, he'll just repeat, "Don't touch or move my stuff," even if I send a picture of fruit literally caked in mold. I left for a trip 2 months ago and got back yesterday. I guess early on in my trip, Jeff bought some raw chicken and left it in the fridge. I opened the fridge yesterday morning to make breakfast and it was rancid. All the food on the lower shelves was drenched in liquefied chicken. There were mold spots growing on the plastic and it smelled like death. I lost it. I took every single biohazard out of that fridge and immediately tossed it in the dumpster. I used every chemical I had to completely sterilize the fridge. The whole process took hours. As I was cleaning, Jeff came home and immediately started yelling about me touching his food. I yelled back and told him that he's an idiot for leaving all that food to go rotten. He told me he's autistic and needs things in certain places, and I told him I need a fridge that doesn't have a Pandora's box full of diseases. He stormed off into his room, and we haven't spoken since. So Reddit, am I the jerk for throwing out my roommate's food? I think OP is pretty clearly not the jerk here. And the reason I say that is very distinctly, OP begged and showed pictures of this moldy, liquefying food and said, "Hey, I understand you don't want me to touch this, but you need to get rid of this, man." And they didn't do anything about it. It's literally crossing over into health hazard / scientific experiment categories. You know you need to throw that food out when you're legitimately concerned that some new species is going to birth from it. Our next story is by ISISHSZ Heisey. Am I the jerk for telling all my friends they have to move out now that I'm pregnant? 4 years ago, my parents passed away in an accident. They left me everything, including their 4-bedroom house that was almost completely paid off. At the time, I was young and not financially responsible enough to pay off the full mortgage on my own. So I let my then boyfriend, now husband, and our friends and their partners move in. With 8 people paying rent, we paid the rest of the mortgage off pretty quickly since we paid almost double the payment each month. But now I'm 27 years old and I'm ready to settle down. My husband and I found out that I was pregnant about a month ago, and after talking, we decided it was time for everyone to move out so we can start our family. We asked everyone to dinner tonight and made the announcement. At first, everyone was so excited for us. They started talking about how much they would help with the baby and how much fun it was going to be to have a kid around. When everyone finally quieted down enough, we told them we'd expect everyone to move out by the end of August. It was silent. It then immediately erupted into a screaming match. Everyone speaking at once and some people claiming they won't be leaving. I told them I gave them more than enough time to look for a place, and one of them blatantly told me to go freak myself. After an hour of arguing and one by one, everyone going to their rooms and slamming their doors loudly in our faces, my husband and I just got in bed. We genuinely don't know what to do and thought we gave them more than enough time and they would be more understanding. Are we the jerks? So I think OP's not the jerk, considering that from this point, there's still 6 months, half a year, for them to find a new living scenario. It might have been a good situation that lasted a long time and maybe they got really attached to it, but I feel like they should understand that you own the house and this was always going to be a possibility from the day they moved in. I don't think there was ever going to be a really easy or good way to break this kind of news. Their reaction doesn't surprise me, but I don't think OP's a jerk. Our next story is by Purtis V. Am I the jerk for being openly hostile towards my sister and telling on her, thus potentially making her husband lose custody of his children? I'm not gonna be shy about this. My sister sucks. She's a horrible, self-centered person who thinks she's the main character. She's not only a horrible person, she's a step monster. She married this guy who's a freaking pushover 3 years ago. He has 2 children, 10 and 6. My sister constantly complains about them, saying things like the 6-year-old's gross because he sips too loud or has stained clothing. For the love of God, he's 6. That's what a child's supposed to do. And she's so mean to the 10-year-old girl. She acts straight out jealous of her. I've caught her taunting her that daddy loves my sister more than her. She's horrible. I've straight up called her out after trying to talk to her like a million times. At Christmas, she was saying that it'd be nice to have the kids there, and I said, "Why? You hate them." This is when everything was almost over, and she'd been bragging to her friends that her husband had spent more on her than on his daughter. A fight ensued. My parents reprimanded me, but my cousins took my side and called her out, noting every moment that they'd witnessed her being horrible. Her husband obviously took her side and said that she was a wonderful stepmother and that the kids love her, to which I said that was a lie, as I'd consoled them countless times after they were taunted by my sister. They left, and we haven't talked since. One day, I was running errands and ran into my stepnephews who were with their mother. I had never met her, and honestly, she's wonderful. We decided to have some coffee. While the kids were playing, she asked me how her children behaved, etc. I said they were wonderful, and then I just spilled the beans on my sister. how awful she was, what I've heard her say to the kids, the inaction of her ex-husband. By the end, she was horrified. She said the kids didn't like her, but she always chucked it up to my sister being the new woman in her father's life. She said the kids never really said anything even when she asked. I then told her I was very concerned for the children, as my sister had straight up told the 10-year-old that it would be better if she disappeared from her father's life. Their mother saw red and again asked me if I'd be willing to testify. She said that this was unacceptable and she would be taking their father to court again. I said I would recount the events that I witnessed and could ask my cousins who'd witnessed a lot too. She was very grateful. I asked my cousins, who were all willing to recount the events. Word got around to my parents, and by extension, my sister. And they've been calling me the biggest jerk on the planet who would betray family on a whim. Am I the jerk? When the stepmother says to the kid, it would be better if they just disappeared, I don't think you're ever going to be a jerk for mentioning that behavior to somebody who can do something about it. Those kids don't deserve to be growing up dealing with that kind of second-rate treatment. And shame on the husband for being willing to turn a blind eye to it, unless the stepmom is that good at covering it up. I hope for the kids' sake that something can be figured out that just genuinely helps them, especially as they start to reach a very important developmental time in their life. And our final story of the day is by Seattle WA5647. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my girlfriend take my son after his mom begged me to? My ex-wife and I got divorced. One of the reasons is that she still is, married to her job and not me. 3 years ago, we have 50-50 custody of our 4-year-old son. I've met my current girlfriend almost 2 years ago, and we're planning on getting engaged at the end of 2022. My girlfriend adores my son and likes to spend some time with him. She'd even let my ex drop my son off at our place because of work. She's a nurse. This occurred several times, and although my girlfriend never complained, I just couldn't help but feel that my ex was taking advantage of my girlfriend's good nature and basically messing up our custody agreement. The other day, my girlfriend and I were home. My ex-wife called her, asking if she could drop my son off for a few hours. My ex-wife was on speaker when she was speaking to my girlfriend on the phone, so I heard from a distance. I took the phone right before my girlfriend could say yes, and firmly told my ex-wife no, and to stop taking advantage of my girlfriend. She kept on about how she needed to cover this emergency shift right then and couldn't find a replacement on such short notice. I said it wasn't mine and my girlfriend's fault, and that she should be ashamed of herself for using my girlfriend like that. My girlfriend kept staring as my ex said that she wasn't using her since she's my son's future stepmom. I said, well, that doesn't make her your personal babysitter for freak's sake. But she again said it's between her and my girlfriend. My girlfriend told me to let my ex-wife bring my son over, but if I let it happen again, this will set a precedent for my ex-wife to pull similar stunts in the future. My ex-wife begged, but I told her to get a babysitter. She said something about not finding one, but I hung up and handed the phone back to my girlfriend. My girlfriend looked upset with me and said that none of what I did was called for, that I should have let my ex-wife bring my son over. I asked if she was fine with being used as a babysitter, and she said that spending time with my son is not like babysitting. I let her know that always saying yes and not setting boundaries won't do her any good. She got more upset and said that I blew this out of proportion and ruined some great time with my son. She went upstairs and acted hurt by how I handled the situation, though I thought that I was helping her stand up for herself and set boundaries with those who try to take advantage of her. Am I the jerk? So whether or not the wife is taking advantage here, I think OP's willingly ignoring the bigger picture here, and that's, what about the child? OP's very own son. If the wife's working a lot and they have an emergency situation come up, like yeah, they could go find a babysitter, but isn't your own son going to be happier with you and your future wife over having to stay with a babysitter anyways? Is that time where your son's with your wife a very important time that is ruined by your kid being over? Is OP in the situation telling the wife, find a babysitter, don't drop the kid off with my girlfriend, in the right? Or do you think OP's a jerk? I'd definitely like to hear your guys' thoughts on this because there's a good few pieces going on here, and I'd like to know what the consensus seems. But with that being said, that's all the time that we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.